The Acolyte episode 3 just dropped, and we've watched it, and we're here to give our thoughts about the episode. And man, there was a lot of buzz online about how this is going to be the most lore-breaking, contentious, just dividing episode there
Mhm.
is in all of Star Wars fandom, which is like a really big thing to say. Would you say after watching the episode that it held up to that kind of accusation before anyone even saw the episode?
I would say, yeah. I would say it does some things that um, are not good. Not
Not
good for
good.
Star Wars, not good for the Star Wars universe, and introducing essentially a new power into the universe, and not a new power. This is a power that predates all of the other movies
Exactly.
that
They're
and
trying to.
TV shows that we've seen by 100 years.
Exactly. So just obviously, as everybody who's going to be putting out videos, this is spoiling stuff if you haven't seen the show,
Mhm.
but we don't really give a crap if we spoil it for you or not. It's trash. Um, not to give it away up front.
Yeah.
But so go ahead, and Wyatt, and explain your understanding of what this episode tried to do by completely destroying the concept of the Force.
Okay, so um, a brief and quick synopsis is there's the two girls. They live in an all women society coven, essentially, of witches, and
And it's
um,
not it's not essentially, it is the words they use in
no,
the
no,
show.
no, they call themselves witches
And a coven,
and a
right?
coven, right?
And
And they have
I
rituals
freaking
and
I predicted this. I'm like,
yeah,
Hollywood's obsessed with women's societies of witches and covens, and I was like,
yes,
and this is the words they used in a Star Wars story.
hmm
Sorry to interrupt.
um, but yeah, and so these twin girls are clearly very different. It's what you got to do with siblings and twins, make them different. One wants to stay, one wants to go. Um, and then there's a ritual. And the witch leader, Mother Anastasia or Anastasia, introduces what is called the thread, and the thread is the Force. Essentially, she says some call it a force, right?
Right?
Um, but basically, the way that they use the force is better, and she at no point ever alludes to there being a dark side of the thread or a light side of the thread. It's just the thread, and it's one, it's two, and it's many, right?
Okay.
It weaves together. Okay, so ultimately, the Jedi come. One of the sisters wants to be a Jedi and is tested. And as she's telling her mother that she wants, her mother, right? She has two mothers. One of them carried the children, the other one created the children using the
Mhm.
thread or the force, right?
Using this off-brand version
Using
of
the
the Force.
off-brand, the Walmart brand force, right?
So, yeah, so 2 moms and
Mhm.
immaculately
And
conceived.
they were immaculately conceived.
So putting these 2 twin girls on the
Mhm.
same level of Anakin
Anakin
Skywalker.
Skywalker, and, uh, they as the one is telling her mom, "I wanna leave, I wanna be a Jedi, I don't know what I wanna do." I wrote down this quote word for word because I wanted to get it right. This this I think is what is canon breaking. Mother Anastasia says, "Destiny is not decided for you by an anonymous force," right? Force in the subtitles, the F was capitalized. By an
Mm.
anonymous force. You get to make a choice, Osha. If you want to pull the thread, then pull it. And the girl says, "I'll never see you again." And she says, "You won't." Um, so her destiny kind of is being decided for her. Um, And then she says, "Fear should not make this decision for you. You, Osha, you should."
Mhm.
Right?
Right, right,
So,
right.
what we know of the Force is that there is good and there's bad, right? And the bad can be reached with extreme emotions and relying on extreme emotions.
Right.
Not that emotions are bad, and even they've already broken canon in the show by saying that sentimentalism and memory, loving memory, is bad.
Mhm.
Right? One, I think Jackie is like, "Isn't sentimentalism? Aren't you supposed to not be sentimental? Right?
Right.
Aren't you not supposed to treasure memories and things? Aren't you
Yeah.
supposed to be a statue?" That's not that was never established as the Jedi way,
That
and
was just made up, that
that
was
was made up
insinuated.
to what they're trying to do is make the Force seem restrictive. That's what
Yes.
they want the Force to be a patriarchal, restrictive idea and spirituality, and the thread is not.
Well, the
So
thread is harnessed by a coven of witches, all
right,
society of
exactly.
women who are completely enlightened and ultimately perfect in their interpretation of this God, essence in the universe,
So
right?
the Force, the dark side can be reached with extreme emotions. Fear leads to anger, and anger leads to hate, and hate leads to suffering. Right?
Mm,
It's not that those things are evil. It's that if you rely on them for your power, that is evil, and you tend to do evil things. And that's why the Jedi practice a sort of stoicism and cut themselves off from um, extreme love attachments, because those attachments can uh, create situations in which they will rely extremely on emotions.
yes.
Um, but
All
the
bets are
thread,
off.
all bets are off, and so ultimately something happens. The one wants to leave, the other doesn't want her to go. She sets a fire. She's like, "I'll kill you."
Yeah.
Um, and then we get a strange scene where they're on a bridge,
Mhm.
and one of them, Osha, is like, "May, what did you do?" And then May says, "What did you do?"
Right. Insinuating that there is something hidden in the story. It goes to reveal that all of the witches have been destroyed
Mhm.
after Jedi Soul rescues Osha and what appears to be May falling to her death. So something happened off screen from this episode.
And you want to hear my theory?
Go ahead.
Either we see Mother Anastasia lying there, potentially dead. I didn't see the other mom,
No.
right? The one with
It,
the
it's
horns,
pretty
the one
it's
that carried the
pretty
kids.
it's pretty obvious.
Um, what I think happened is uh uh Torben used force powers to on May, and
Mhm.
had her say that she was going to kill her sister and light the fire and everything, right? Because they didn't want this coven of witches, because they hate them, because the universe hates women like them.
The
The
universe is
galaxy,
that
the
what is
galaxy,
it? The quote from the show,
yeah.
this episode is,
She
"The
says
galaxy is not kind to
to
women
women like us.
women like us." So
Gosh, the whole thing is
we
just
get freaking Earth at 2024 politics just
it's
crammed
so
down our
full of
throats, and
itself too.
it's so full of itself, dude.
This like moral high ground that these witches are on, like it's disgusting. And then they also have this gross ritual, and you cannot, I'm
Gross,
sorry,
dude.
you can't watch the ritual and say, "Yeah, they're good."
No, it's clearly like, okay, first
It's
off,
it's
so
a it's a it's a it's like a cult. It's a cult
yeah,
ritual. That's
it's a
what
cult
cults
ritual.
do.
Yes, yeah, and they're literally seeming as if they're being sexually pleasured the
Mhm.
whole time.
Mhm.
So it's this weird freaking, it honestly, like, demonic idea that Hollywood's
Yeah.
trying to glorify and say, no, these are the good guys, the good
Right.
women harnessing the power of the thread, right? Which is like a superior force. And they're enlightened and they're,
Mhm.
being filled with the thread or whatever the crap you want to say it is. But it's honestly, it seems like a very kind of messed up. It doesn't seem good. It seems very bad. It
And
seems kind of child abusive. You know
And
what I mean?
everything about it encourages their emotions, encourages their extreme desires and longings, and it so much so that when the one mother tries to correct them and say, "You are not supposed to be outside. You are disobeying direct orders. You cannot have candy." The other mother comes in and she's like, "Oh, let them have it. Let them have the candy." Right? Just
Right.
rewarding their desire.
Right, right, right.
And I just it was
Now,
tough to watch, dude.
honestly, with this whole situation with the this coven of witches,
Mhm,
and they're being painted in this, we're like an oppressed group of people who are more enlightened and have all the answers and are smarter than everybody else.
mhm.
If they don't end this season, which I'm pretty sure they won't, I'll leave it open to let the show creators do the right thing. But if they don't end this season demonizing that group and saying that the Jedis were actually in the right here, then you've screwed up. Like you're not only wrong and lore breaking, you're actually like morally incorrect,
The
because this is just a weird. If you wanna inject modern day ideologies into your story, then you have to also take modern day ideology standards, right?
Mhm.
And it's morally incorrect. Like, this was a group of adult women witches that were forcing these girls into something that one of them didn't even wanna do.
Didn't wanna do. Right.
Exactly. They have to be demonized. If they've not demonized this group of witches in this story, then
One
it's
of the witches takes a hold of a Padawan,
yeah.
like, it turn like he's having a seizure,
Yeah, it
and
says
it's just like
threatened to destroy his brain.
exactly. And so, I got 2 predictions. One prediction is that the Sith Lord, or the, Sith Lord, is, discount Ezra Miller, and
Mhm.
he will ultimately be a villain, and there will it'll be a choice between him and the Jedi,
Right.
and the sisters, both the sisters, will choose the thread.
That's a really good theory.
And then,
Opposed to the Force.
as
We're
opposed
gonna
to the
choose
dark side or the light side of the Force,
we're gonna
right?
choose the 3rd option, which is the correct option.
The other theory is that it's one of the mothers. Either
I think
Mother
honestly
Anastasia or the one who carried them
I think look, I don't know,
with
I
the
think
horns.
they're gonna yeah, it's the same species that Darth Maul
I
is,
don't
that
think
this
so.
woman is. I
I don't
think it
think
is.
she is.
She
She
had the
doesn't look it.
stripes that are same as Darth Maul. I know his are tattoos, but his species have,
But I the witches of Dathomir are, that's where Maul's species is from,
right.
Dathomir, and she
I'm
didn't
pretty
look like
sure
one of the witches of Dathomir.
maybe not in Disney's version from, like, the Ahsoka series, but I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure it's either completely inspired by or
Oh, it's
she's that
absolutely
species.
inspired by Darth Maul. I don't know if
She
they're
had
the
the
same
same
race
the
or
same
species.
hard angled, shapes on the face, the same
Mhm,
horns placement. The only difference is she had a patch of hair that, was back
mhm,
there. But I think that we don't know what's gonna happen to her. I think the story's gonna reveal something that happened to her. Maybe she survived or something, and they're gonna build on that. I think it's kind of a bad theory to say she's gonna be the Sith Lord, because
mhm.
if you think about the motivations of what this Sith Lord is going to be, that mother was very anti Jedi. That mother was very anti everything. So why would she turn to lightsabers and dark side to direct her daughter into killing Jedis without using lightsabers? You know what I mean?
I
Um, I think that's a very bad theory. I think honestly, discount Ezra Miller is a stronger theory than it's
I
being one of the
think that
moms.
there's also a Fight Club element to the sisters dynamic
Mhm.
where, there's good and bad, or there's essentially dark and light force in them, in both
Yes.
of them, or there's essentially both personalities in both of the something weird like that, right? And they'll have to, because they're one person, and they
right.
kept saying that over and over again, that they're one person.
Yeah.
Um, and even to the point, I think it's absolutely possible where they show that maybe this whole time they were one person. Because even
I
the mother Anastasia said, you know, she's like, "Why did you go out into the woods?" And the other sister says, "Oh, she wanted to do this, or she was scared, or whatever," right? And she says, "Let your sister answer." I could absolutely see that being a one person dialogue. But one of them
perhaps.
has the tattoo and the other doesn't.
I don't know, dude. Honestly, it would be interesting if they took that angle. I honestly think it's way more obvious that I think it's far more obvious that the theory you have about they currently in their uneducated or unenlightened stages of life
Mhm.
represent the light and dark side of the force, meaning the light side of the force that's controlled and what the Jedi represents the dark side being driven by emotions, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And ultimately, they're going to find enlightenment by choosing the thread. I
Both
think
of
that's
them would choose the
ultimately
thread, and they'll, join their hands together because they're
and
one,
the
and
combination of the dark and light
one is
together
2,
makes something
makes
perfect,
something
and it
perfect, which is
becomes
the
the thread.
thread.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's so freaking dumb, man. It's
And
so freaking dumb.
yeah, it's stupid, and I hate it. And
That I did have another quick theory if you let me.
mhm.
I think so. A couple weeks ago, there was a bunch of articles that was posted about George Lucas talking about this, and we actually covered it on the podcast. I think it actually holds new meaning right now because even though he doesn't own Disney Star Wars, I think at this point they probably, especially with him backing the Disney up to so their
Mhm.
stock doesn't drop and they didn't get taken over by Nelson Peltz. I think I think they probably let him see the content of Star Wars on
Yeah.
command. And so I have a pretty good feeling he probably watched this show a few weeks back. And let me just read the quote. We talked about it on the channel already, but let me read the quote again and see if it holds new meaning after this episode, right? So this is what he said. I was the one who really knew what Star Wars was, who actually knew this world because there's a lot to it. The Force, for example, nobody understands the Force, he said. When they started other ones after I sold the company, a lot of those ideas that were in the original sort of got lost. But that's the way it is. You give it up, you give it up,
So you
right?
think that he has seen this episode of The Acolyte, and
Why would he
he's
bring up why would the Force,
mhm.
as an example, be top of mind, right? For
Yeah,
Star Wars for George Lucas if he didn't see the show and wasn't thinking about it, you know what I mean?
I think you're
Because
right.
this show deals so deeply in the Force and is so lore breaking, I think it's obvious that this is like top of mind, and he probably watched this and just had a full body eye roll, you know what I mean?
Mhm, and then didn't say anything. He was probably just like, "Oh, yeah, that's good."
Well, he did say something.
And then
He
later, yeah,
he gave
later
an
he
interview
says,
that said nobody at Disney understands the
yeah.
story, especially the Force.
I think
Nobody
he
understands
said it in a dismissive, like, "Nobody understands, but you give it up. Like, I can't mess with it,
it.
you."
Exactly.
Right?
He's like, "There's
It's
too much
so
politics
sad.
here."
So
It
sad.
honestly is. It's ridiculous, and frankly, I think that this is an abomination to Star Wars. This is an
Mhm.
abomination and a black mark to the original trilogy, and it's disrespectful.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter how you feel about George Lucas, him, the original trilogy, the prequel trilogy, him selling to Disney, and then them over the years completely corroding what it means the IP of Star Wars and what it means to the fan base. Um, I think ultimately this show, out of everything, There's a lot of Star Wars that's bad. There's a lot of Star Wars that's stupid. There's a lot of Star Wars that is just nerfed out of control with modern
Mhm.
politics and ridiculous. I think this might be the biggest example of just disrespect they have
Yeah.
for the IP. And
I think Chris Gore said that it's a Star Wars skin suit. Like, the IP has been dead for quite a few years now,
Mhm,
but they have attached strings to it and are moving it around like a puppet. And
right.
so when it makes strange movements that don't look right or feel right, you just have to know that it's a marionette. It's a
Yeah.
puppet. It's not real. It's clacking its jaws at you. It really it's kinda disgusting, and that's the only way I can think about it.
Leave it to Chris Gore to be, like, super visually dramatic,
Yeah. I don't
honestly.
he didn't say the part about the strings.
Well, leave it to you then,
I
my
maybe
dude.
added I maybe made that
It's a good example,
a
though.
little bit descriptive.
Clacking its jaws at you, dude. And with that, I think that's about our thoughts. There's so many stupid details we can get into. Like, is the Wookiee wearing a bandana or is that a bald head? Like, I don't
Right.
know. You know what I mean?
There's a ton of stuff.
There's a ton of
There's
stupid
so many
stuff.
little and yet again, Soul being the best actor, in my opinion,
Well, he's the only one trying.
the only one seemingly trying. I guess Trinity, Carrie Ann Moss is there,
I'm not
being a
impressed. I'm
Jedi.
freaking not impressed. Not
She just
impressed in
sorta
the
seems like
slightest.
a reserved Jedi, but
It's
Soul is the best
Look,
so
she's a
far.
selling point. She's saying, "Oh, the Matrix woman, we're gonna get people to
She
watch it
is.
because of her," but they
Mhm,
didn't give her anything of substance to work with. She's just dull, she's just there, there's nothing interesting, she's not putting a lot of heart into the acting.
mhm.
It's stupid. Soul is the only one that I feel like is looking at the script going like,
Yeah,
"I'll give it my best
I'll give
shot."
it my best shot.
Yeah, exactly. Um so let us know what you guys think down in the comments below. We appreciate you guys watching and hearing our thoughts. We want to hear yours as well. So please do comment. It really adds to the conversation for this series of this abomination of Star Wars. Consider liking this video if you enjoyed it and subscribing to the channel so you can watch more Acolyte videos every week. We're also going to be starting House of the Dragon pretty soon this Sunday. So make sure you subscribe to stay tuned for that. We really appreciate it. We'll see you guys next time.